Good morning. I did my learning theories over Jerome Bruner. Alrighty. So he was born in New York on October 1st in 1915, and then he died in New York on June 5th, 2016. He studied at both Duke and Harvard University, and then he taught and did research at Harvard, Oxford, and New York University. And then in 2002, a review of General Psychology survey ranked him as the 28th most cited psychologist of the 20th century. And then us educators know the scaffolding approach to teaching, and he was the one to coin that term. Okay, so going into characteristics of his theory, he says students may experience or represent tasks in 3 ways. Those 3 ways is the inactive mode, which is 0 to 1 year. In this mode, knowledge is stored in the form of motor responses. So it's thinking based entirely on physical actions, and infants learn by touching things, doing things, instead of necessarily thinking about things. It's a lot of action based with muscle memory. We see shaking of a rattle, or let's see, younger blocks and whatnot. So then we go into the iconic mode, which is 1 to 6 years. These are sensory images, like icons. This is diagrams or illustrations to go along with the verbal explanations and information. We're also looking into the hearing and smell and touch sensories in this mode. In symbolic mode, we're in the 7 years, and that is also onwards. It is the language and mathematical symbols, or other symbols as well. So this is, learning music symbols, or different symbols in math. It can also be, what's another one? Just the symbols there in general. Okay, so then he also came up with his known spiral curriculum. He is well known for this quote: "Any subject can be taught effectively in some intellectual, honest form to any child at any stage of development." So his spiral curriculum is that we can be taught a certain idea at different levels. So at a young level, you're learning a very simplified idea, and then that idea can be taught again as you get older, or even students maybe that are struggling can learn it at a baseline, and then it can move on from there. And so that's the idea of a spiral curriculum. You start here, but it can be shown again at this age, and this age, and this age. So then he had what is also known as the discovery learning theory. He is saying that students should not just be presented with the information of the subject in its final form. So instead of just giving, here's all the information, this is what you need to know, and be done. Literally just telling you what you need to know and everything. But his idea is that the teacher can give information, but it's more or less laying out different ways of that information. Maybe not that, but it's to the point that the teacher can give all the means of finding out the final thought process of that subject or that lesson, and then students can really discover um, the relationship between all of that information that you give them. So it's really a more students hands-on onto their learning. Okay, so then we go into our scaffolding theory, right? And the scaffolding, um, kind of the same way that it comes from the student as well, but that it also builds, right? We build on our, when we think of scaffolding, it's a building tool that builders will use to higher up themselves. Okay, um, so we use that same idea in school of the building up on themselves. Um, so Bruner did say that he had 6 core functions that went along with the scaffolding theory, and that is recruitment, and that is ensuring that the student is interested in the task and understands what is required of them. Then reducing degrees of freedom, so that's helping the student make sense of the material by eliminating irrelevant directions and thus reducing the trial and error aspect of learning. So that's just making sure, like, if we are talking in science, we're not going to bring in magical creatures. That would be maybe reducing, like, let's focus on what we're actually needing to focus on, but you do have free range-ish to focus on that. So then he has direction maintenance, ensuring that the learner is on task and interest is maintained, often by breaking the ultimate aim of task into sub-aims. So instead of just having one big task and not having much guidance on how to get there, we can do, okay, so let's start with this task, and then we can move on to this task, and then we get to our final goal of the learning, um, using those sub um, tasks. Okay, marking critical features, highlighting relevant concepts or processes, and pointing out errors. So that can just be, if you're letting the student work on something by themselves or something, you can come over and just be like, oh yeah, do you see how you found this concept? This is, and just kind of like emphasizing, yeah, that's an important concept. Or maybe seeing something that doesn't go along with what you're actually learning about. Maybe being like, well, I don't know if that so much fits, but this definitely fits. Or just kind of pointing out the yeses and nos of the concepts that you're learning. And then frustration control, that's stopping students from giving up on a task. So of course the idea of working on something alone or by yourself, sometimes you get that frustration, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And that goes back, we can give them tasks to help, make sure that they're not getting overwhelmed. But let's just help them not to give up. And then demonstration, providing models for imitation or possible solutions. So if someone is stuck, right? Like, this is, the next, if someone is stuck and they're frustrated, then let's help them. Let's give them a model of what it looks like and what we're looking for, and the possible um, ideas that we're wanting to get from this learning task. Okay, so how this theory can be applied in mathematics classrooms. So I fully believe that learning math is a scaffolding subject. When we start in, especially like kindergarten right now that I'm interning in, we're looking at just counting, or turning. The other day we worked on parts of 3. So we can separate 1 and separate 2, and those are 2 separate numbers, but in all together we still have 3. That's a very simple, basic math concept. But then, as the grades continue and math continues for those grades, they can see it being added on more so. So we're counting to 10 and we count to 20. Well, then add 10 and 10 and we make 20, and we're adding, we can subtract in those early years, and then we go into multiplying and dividing. Just algebra in its concept of y equals mx plus b information, or in kindergarten we learn different shapes, and that will eventually progress into doing geometry and finding areas of a shape and whatnot. So also I think I'm someone who does struggle with math, and I think that it works good if I have all the information presented to me and then I'm able to kind of work on it myself. It kind of allows me not to get frustrated so much of what the teacher is talking about, and it gives me the confidence to work on math. And I think that's what we really see using this theory in a classroom. And then, finally that hands-on, we can give them real life experience to relate back to their math. Students can work on just counting blocks in the early years, right? Like, can we figure out how many blocks it would take to get to the number 10? And they count out their blocks to 10. And they find out, like, all right, this is a hands-on, this is how many blocks it takes. Or, as they get older, well, how do you keep the kids interested in math? Well, we can do predictions of their favorite game scores, or, the one that I really like is combining science and math and doing weather predictions or graphs of weather. Anyway, that was my theory, and thank you for listening.